The next fresh pasta I'm going to do is a Ravioli Caprese. It's basically a cheese ravioli. And the thing I like about this is it has a really interesting, the pasta is really interesting in it. It's not an egg pasta like this previous one. It's made with boiling water, and it gives it a really interesting texture. The texture of the pasta you almost can't distinguish from the texture of the filling. It's really interesting. We'll start by making the filling. And I'm going to take some ricotta cheese. I'm going to do about a 4-to-1 mixture of the ricotta to Parmesan. So I'm using about a cup of ricotta cheese, and I'm going to use about a 1/4 cup of Parmesan. And this is freshly grated Parmesan I'm using here. We're going to take 1 egg yolk, add it to the filling, and we're going to take a little black pepper and a little salt. And we're going to watch how much salt we use because, of course, the Parmesan's really salty. We don't want to make it too salty when it's all said and done. And we'll mix this together like this. And we'll go ahead and set that aside. For this, I'm going to use my mixer with a dough hook. Put the dough hook in. I'll put my approximately 3 cups of flour in. Just a pinch of salt. And now we're going to have to wait another second because we're waiting for our water to come to a boil here. We can start on the sauce actually while we're waiting for that to cook. What we're going to do is we'll take a couple Roma tomatoes. And we're going to go ahead and core them. And across the bottom. Like that. Fire up our little burner here. That on. And once again, use just a touch of olive oil. Now in this case, we are going to peel the tomatoes because we want a very smooth sauce for this. What we're going to do is we're going to dip them, and once again when the water comes up to a boil, we'll dip them in the water for a minute, pull them out, and loosen the skins, and we'll just be able to peel the skins right off. Okay. We now have boiling water. So I'm going to take 12 ounces of this real quick. More. Pour them with our flour. And we'll let the dough hook do its job. We'll pop our tomatoes in there. Let's see. Let them soften up. We want a very soft dough for this that you can stretch real easily. Okay, here's what we want right here. It's kind of sticky, but it's very soft. Let that sit for a minute. Go ahead and pull my tomatoes out here. We're going to interrupt that for a second. Go ahead and peel our tomatoes. Right. I'm going to go ahead and chop them pretty finely. Thank you, sir. We're going to go ahead and drop them in our skillet real quick. Thoroughly flour our board here. Sure we have flour under that. Now we're going to take our rolling pin and we're going to roll this toward ourselves like this, toward myself, as the case may be. There we go. Now, even off the bottom here, we're going to take our pastry bag, and fill it with our ricotta filling. Just like that. Now here I'm going to use my ravioli cutter. So I'm going to estimate about the width of the cutter. And I'm going to go ahead and put a dollop of the filling spaced just about the width of the cutter there across the dough. Fold it up, and then we just take our cutter and just cut them off. And the way these things are designed, they both cut and seal at the same time. Now you could just use a plain round cutter, at which point you'd have to seal around each pocket of dough first. But in this case, with this kind of cutter, we don't have to do that. We can just cut them like that.
What do you seal it with if you don't have a cutter?
Just your fingers. You would just dab down between each. Because of the softness of this dough, you don't need to brush anything onto the dough to help seal it. Because it's a very soft, wet dough. So, but what you do, you would have to, like I said, tamp it down between each layer. And we'll just repeat. Again, rolling it down. Now, this kind of dough would really only be good for this, for like a cheese ravioli for this. If you would have something with a little more texture to it, like a meat filling, it would be too soft, really. For that, we'd use a regular egg pasta as the coating or as the covering. Now these scraps here we're not going to try to reuse because, once again, because of the gluten and flour, the more you work flour, the tougher it gets. So these scraps here would be kind of tough compared to the other ones if you tried to reuse them. And hey, it's only flour and water anyway, so. sauce here. Go ahead and add just a little bit of water to this sauce. So you really just want to cook that until the tomatoes start to dissolve. And you still want that nice fresh tomato flavor from it. And meanwhile, these take a couple minutes, a little bit longer to cook because they are so thick. But they are floating now. It's kind of funny, you know, I guess in the mid-'80s is when fresh pastas really started becoming big in America. And I remember reading my first articles about it and getting real excited. And so I decided I was going to learn how to make pasta. So I got my machine and I figured out how to make it. And the first thing I did was I went over to my grandmother's house, and her and her sister were sitting there. And I said, guess what? I learned how to make pasta. And I start making this pasta. And my grandmother looks at her sister and says, remember how Mom used to make her own noodles? Her sister said, yeah. And then they started selling them in the stores, and she never made a noodle again. What the hell's wrong with these kids these days? Why would you want to make noodles when you can buy perfectly good noodles in the store? So, but she was impressed when they were done, so I guess it was all right. We're going to go ahead and put a little of our sauce in the middle of the plate. We're going to pull our ravioli out. Put them on the plate like that. Once again, we get a little fresh basil here. Do a real quick chiffonade. That's a fancy word for cutting herbs into strips. Thank you.